So let's talk about taking the pulse of our economy. For decades, we've had to wait for months to get a checkup. But what if AI could give us that diagnosis in real time?
It's a huge question, right? How do you actually measure something as massive as a country's entire economy? Well, for a long time, the answer's been this one key number. Think of it like a national report card. The only catch? That report card is always late.
And that's really the heart of the problem we're digging into today. I mean, imagine you're trying to steer a giant ship, but your map only shows you where you were an hour ago. Sounds crazy, right? But that's pretty much what policymakers and businesses have been forced to do with economic data.
Okay, so before we jump into this super cool AI solution, we've got to wrap our heads around the problem itself. And it all comes down to let's call it the slow heartbeat of our economy's most famous indicator, gross domestic product, or as you probably know it, GDP.
So, what exactly is GDP? Well, in simple terms, it's the total price tag of every single thing a country makes and sells in a certain amount of time. It's the big one. It's the economy's main vital sign, its pulse.
Now, here's a really important detail. The key word is final. See, to avoid counting the same thing twice, economists don't add up the value of, say, the steel, and then also the value of the car made from that steel. Nope, they only count the final product, the car itself.
And this example with the loaf of bread just makes it crystal clear. We're not adding the cost to the seeds, plus the wheat, plus the flour, and then the bread. No way. That final $1,000 price tag for the bread, it already has all those other costs baked right in. That's the number that gets added to the big GDP total.
Okay, so here's the big but. This is the problem. GDP is measured quarterly. So for that first quarter, from January to the end of March, we don't actually get the official numbers until the end of April. By then, we're already a whole month into the next quarter. It's like we're always driving by looking in the rearview mirror.
And look, this isn't just some academic puzzle. As this quote points out, there's a huge demand for faster, more detailed information. People making big decisions in governments, on Wall Street, they need to know what's happening now, not 3 months ago.
So, how do we fix this? How do we close that massive information gap? Well, this is where a brand new, high-speed AI solution comes into the picture. Researchers have been working on a really powerful machine learning framework to tackle this exact delay.
And the core idea is actually pretty simple to grasp, but it's a total game changer. What if, instead of waiting for that slow quarterly report, we could teach a computer to give us a really solid estimate of GDP every single month?
So how did they do it? Well, the researchers basically opened up a whole toolkit of different AI models. They didn't just bet on one horse. They tested a bunch of these powerful methods you see here to figure out which one was the absolute best at spotting the hidden patterns in all that economic data.
Right, but how in the world do you teach a machine to think like an economist? Well, it's not magic. It's all about feeding it the right clues, and a whole lot of them.
The AI isn't just taking wild guesses here. It's being fed this massive diet of what we call high-frequency data. These are things we actually get reports on every single month, like how much stuff people are buying in stores, unemployment rates, how the stock market is doing. You get the idea. These are all the little monthly clues that point to the bigger economic picture.
And the training process itself is, conceptually pretty straightforward. First, you just dump years and years of this historical monthly data into the AI, along with the official quarterly GDP numbers that came out later. Then, the AI just churns through all of it, looking for hidden connections. It starts to learn things, like how a tiny dip in industrial production one month might hint at what the final GDP number is going to look like.
Of course, a fancy theory is one thing. The real question is, does it actually work? So the researchers put this AI framework through some seriously tough tests, pitting it against real-world benchmarks to see if it was really accurate.
Okay, so for the US, they compared their AI's monthly guesses to a top-tier academic model that's already out there. And the results? They were pretty amazing. The AI's numbers lined up really well, and this is huge. It correctly predicted whether the economy was growing or shrinking 93% of the time. That's incredibly reliable.
But the ultimate test, the real moment of truth, came from the UK. Why? Because the UK is one of the only countries that actually publishes an official government estimate of GDP every month. So when they compared the AI's numbers to the government's real data, the correlation was an incredible 0.972. I mean, on a scale where 1.0 is a perfect match, that is just wow. It's almost spot on.
So, okay, the model works. It's incredibly accurate. But so what? Why does getting this data a couple of months faster actually matter in the real world?
Well, it turns out it matters for just about everyone. For governments, it means they can react way faster to fight off a recession or get inflation under control. For businesses, it means less guesswork and smarter decisions about when to hire or invest. And for you and me, a clearer, real-time picture of the economy means more stability for our jobs, for prices, for our financial future.
And honestly, this is just the beginning. The really exciting part is that this same AI framework can be pointed at even more, let's say, unconventional data sources to see what else it can find.
I mean, check this out. The next frontier could be using satellite data of nighttime lights to measure economic activity from space. The logic's pretty simple, right? More lights could mean more factories running late, more stores open for business. Literally, a brighter economy.
But it's a bit more nuanced than that. This kind of data works better in some places than others. So in a manufacturing-heavy economy like China, when the factories shut down, the lights go out. It's a really strong direct signal. But in a service-heavy economy like the UK's, during the lockdowns, work just moved from super bright office buildings to people's dimmer homes. So the nighttime light signal got a lot weaker, less reliable. It really shows that context is everything. And that really leaves us with a final big question to think about. If AI can give us this kind of real-time snapshot of where our economy is right now, what else could it help us see coming just around the corner? What's next?